Hello, it's Ant-Man. Welcome to today's transmission. This broadcast will be covering uh, quite a few things, but mainly to do with the Luciferian agenda right now that I think I need to explain. I think I am probably the most informed person on this that I know, and on the, our groups and forums as well. Um, and I'll give you a little background about that first, and I have the documents right here that I'm going to read off of. I worked on them all day. I'm actually in Lincoln Center right now. So today, beginning an Ant-Man's podcast, or broadcast, I should say. That's actually a good nickname, Ant-Man. I've had many nicknames, being from Brooklyn and even in Florida when I lived down there for a few years. I did have a couple nicknames, but Ant-Man's nice, and I do appreciate that. But let's get started. There's some bad things going on. A few days ago, I mentioned there'll be a huge globalist announcement. This was before General Flynn had to resign. They're after him. Now, somebody sent me, or I saw it on a feed. Alex Jones was live, and he said that there's a huge breaking globalist announcement coming soon. And I said that on Sunday, on one of my controversial posts about libertarianism. And one quick thing: I don't have a problem with libertarianism. I actually identify myself with a libertarian. Probably more than anything else. But I don't agree with Abe Lincoln did on a lot of. I don't agree with how he did it. I agree with the outcome of what happened. Andrew Jackson as well. I don't really agree with how he did things, but the outcome was necessary. So we got to understand that. Sometimes, we got to fight to take things back from the powers that be, and the powers that be have been here for a long time. So I'll start explaining first Masonry, because for some reason a lot of people think it's Luciferian, and I will explain that. And I'll give you a little bit of my credentials. I will. And today's Valentine's Day, by the way. It's around 2:30 in the afternoon, February 14th. Right now I'm in Lincoln Center, New York. Let's get started. I just want to recap a little bit on my occult knowledge. I've actually spent about 100 hours in the Masonic Library in the Grand Lodge of New York. One of my good friends is a worshipful master. I'm also a part of the lodge myself. It's very compartmentalized, meaning that there's a lot of different lodges, okay? I could join one lodge. It has to be by unanimous vote, and somebody has to vouch for you. I might not be able to get into other lodges, elite lodges. And I've actually posted up pictures of the elite lodge. There's about 10 lodges, maybe 12 in the building, actually. They're all different. They're compartmentalized. There are Luciferian things going on. Not in my lodge, but in other lodges, yes. That's just the way it works. Things were compromised a long time ago. So I spent, 100 hours in the library there, reading books about occultism, about the bloodlines, about a lot of different things, about ancient history. I've also learned from, people like Manly P. Hall, which is a high-level Mason. Also, his books are very good, very spiritual, and very inciting. So if you're looking into that type of thing, I would actually wish that you would probably pick up one of his books, Manly P. Hall. A lot of his books could explain Masonry and the occultism. Occultism isn't bad. Originally it was, and I'll explain. But first of all, duality. Duality keeps coming up. all this evil stuff with the pedophile ring, I hate it. I hate it to the bottom of my heart. It makes me sad. However, in this life, we will never achieve great happiness without great sadness. And that's unfortunate, because if you think about it, every time that, let's say you have a family and you go with your family, you have a nice car, you're out there, you have a great day, you're all laughing, taking pictures, forget about it. Just a great day, right? There's an opposite to that. Somewhere on the other side of the world, there's children being tortured, or there's somebody getting their head chopped off. And I'm not saying it's your fault. I'm just saying that's the mathematical way of this universe. And God did not intend that. It could be proven, and Benjamin Franklin has said this. He believes we have a benevolent God. There's something called duality that I've talked about before. Duality, male, female, dark, night, day and night, white and black. Everything's an opposite. If one thing occurs, you could automatically not assume, but know that the opposite does occur. And that's very true. You can apply that to almost anything in life, but with occultism, it's extremely important, because all the things that are going on right now, look how many people are leading good lives in this world, despite all that's happening. In order to live those lives, the evil that's happening must happen, unfortunately. I don't like it, but when God created this universe, and I'll be very frank, when God created this universe, it was created through mathematics and geometry. Okay? Now, there's rules in math. There's formulas. Okay? There's things that have to occur for things to not occur, or to occur otherwise. We have a very complex life system here, and the system is all mathematics, and I've said that before, based on geometry. Geometry is very important. Okay. God didn't mean for the evils to happen when He created the universe, and He realized that in order for one thing to happen, the opposite must happen. So in order for something good to happen, the opposite must happen. He did not intentionally mean that, God. He actually just discovered it through mathematics. It's all mathematics. Everything that's going on in this world can be explained through mathematics. And we need smart people to actually know that. And you know what? Donald Trump actually does know that. I'm not saying he's an occultist. He's not a Mason. But he's tuned in. This guy has been tuned in for a long time. And he's fighting the right fight. I'm telling you right now. So, just to recap, we have duality. All these pedophile rings that are going down, I'm glad they're going down. I don't want the children to be hurt. But that's what's happening. According to my sources in New York, there've already been busts, and there's going to be high-level busts. I was tipped off a while ago about Chelsea Clinton. Chelsea Clinton is involved with the human trafficking. I know that. It's going to come out soon. They're going to blackmail the Clintons, basically, because why would they want their daughter to get caught up with this? But she already is. They're going to get all of them, But it's not going to be widely publicized because, as I said before, the atrocities are just so bad that it would destroy the fabric of society if people knew what was actually going on. But it is duality. It's all because of duality. The reason why we have Satanists is because of duality. We have to have the bad in order to have the good. And when the universe was created and life was created, God wanted everybody to be happy. However, through mathematics, that could not happen. There must always be something that opposes the other. It's built into the math. So we always have to assume that there's going to be wars. There's going to be peace. You can look at my other video about it, but it's extremely important to understand that there's no in this life there's never going to be peace. We're never going to get rid of the evil, because if we did get rid of the evil, we would also get rid of the good. There's no good if there wasn't evil. Like I said, there's no life without death. We have the two pillars, Boaz and Joaquin, here in the documents. I explained that before. Strength and establishment equals establishment equals stability. So we have to have a good establishment, and we have to have strength for stability. And Donald Trump knows that. That's why he wants a strong military, and he wants a good establishment. Reince Priebus, I said, was a good pick. I still think he is, because let me tell you something. If Donald Trump disproves him and he has to explain himself in front of the country why he was kicked out of the White House as chief of staff, that will discredit not only him but Paul Ryan and a lot of other Republicans. So that I see that as another chess move by the guy. You know, I don't like arguing with libertarians. I'm a libertarian myself. However, I do understand that what's going on right now needs more than what libertarianism alone could provide. Libertarianism alone, okay, could, especially since libertarians want open borders, it can only work if other countries are also going by the same philosophy. It's almost like a utopia, a socialist utopia. However, instead of socialist, it's free market economics. I agree with all that stuff. We can't put it in place right now. We have to get rid of the banks. We're going to have to get rid of the bad people. There's bad people out there. So, like I said, when God made this existence, okay, it was built into the mathematics that in order to have good, there must always be evil. That's why with these pedophile rings, I'll say it again, they're doing terrible things to the children. And we're out here smiling and being happy, but at the same time, so many bad things are going on. You know, and I don't want that to happen. Nobody does. But anyway, let's get started here. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the history of the Masons, because George Washington was a Mason, Benjamin Franklin was a Mason. I love these guys. And I want to make sure that you understand why they're not Luciferian. And you can say the new Masons are. Not the low-level Masons, like maybe a guy like me. I'm not saying that I am, but you know what I'm talking about. The higher-ups that invaded it. There was almost a coup that happened. So let me. I got the documents right here. Okay. It started out with the Egyptian pharaoh making ceremonies. Okay, there were 3 priests that always were privy of the ceremony to be carried out to make the king. Okay, so those were the kingmakers. The three priests were always the kingmakers. This is ancient Egypt, and they did ceremonies and secret things with these guys and gave them occult information for years and years and years to make them the king. That's how they became the king, because they knew the secret knowledge that nobody else knew. Okay. General Moses was an Egyptian. Moses was an Egyptian general. Okay, we all know what happened there. There was wars going on. Egypt and Israel weren't having such good times. Moses actually was very privy to the ceremonies. He was in the elite. This guy, he wasn't really a good guy. Moses killed a lot of people, a lot of good people, a lot of bad people. But he wasn't the best guy. But he was privy to the secret ceremonies. The last real pharaoh in Egypt was Sequinera Tau. Uh, if you look at Masonic texts, Hiram Abiff is a very important figure. Hiram Abiff. You hear about him all the time in these Masonic manuals and so on and so forth. He was like the original Mason. He's in the Masonic ceremonies. He was based on Sequinera Tau. And we know that because they found his mummy and they found actual concussions on his brain that directly mix or line up with the Masonic ritual of Hiram Abiff. Now, when Sequinera Tau was murdered, he was like the last real king that was made in Egypt. And this was the time of Moses when he was a general, way before Christ. Old Testament stuff. Hiram Abiff is not mentioned in the Old Testament. Hiram Abiff means basically like a carpenter of some sort. But Hiram Abiff is actually Sequinera Tau, which was the last actual pharaoh that was initiated properly into the society. Okay, Moses. Now he floods to Egypt.
Oh my gosh. Don't pick that.
What did I got? I got some assholes behind me over here. Okay, Moses basically was very privy. He was an elite guy. He knew the ceremonies of the king-making ceremonies. And when he went to Israel, he took that information with him. That was very powerful information. Basically, he knew how to make the king, the pharaoh. He had that information. When Sequinera Tau was murdered, also were his 3 priests were the ones that were actually administering the occult knowledge to him, causing him to be king. Okay, he initiated people into a secret order. He initiated King Solomon in Israel. King Solomon built the temple. The Masonic temple is basically built after King Solomon's temple. Okay. Years later, the temple's follower, late Masonic Templar to be built as King Solomon. Occultist secrets were hidden from the common man. This was to separate the king from the people. So basically, the people were always looking for this knowledge. They were always looking for this occult knowledge that the king had, because they couldn't understand why the king was the king, and they weren't. They didn't have the same knowledge as the king. So they knew something happened during the ceremonies, and that was the initiation with the occult knowledge. So secrets were originally hidden from the common man. This is going back to ancient Egypt. Okay, now the king-making ceremonies were now practiced in Israel, and that's because Moses brought them there. General Moses was actually he was kind of a bad guy. He was kind of a bad actor. Moses. He killed a lot of people, but he brought that initiation ceremony with the occult knowledge to Israel. Next in the documents. Now Jesus comes around, and his brother James. Both were initiated in this society. Now, a lot of people will say no. I will say yes. I know for a fact it's yes. Okay. Jesus and his brother, James, both in this society. Nobody knows what Jesus did between the age of 12 and 30. Okay, Jesus was born immaculately from Mary. Okay, until 12, we kind of know what he did. grew up, disappeared between 12 and 30. At 30 years old, he came back. He was a minister of the Church of Jerusalem, which later became the Catholic Church. Nobody knows what he did in those years. I do. He was being initiated in the highest ways of the order that had occurred in Israel at the time. And so was James. James was also initiated, his brother. Years later, after Jesus has died, we have the Knights Templar that were set out to protect Solomon's temple. A Knights basically disclosed the secrets and possible Ark. They discovered the secrets and possible Ark in the Holy of Holies location.